with our linear equations here today. Today we are on linear equation playlist video number 4. Today we're going to be taking the next step in actually solving a linear equation to find the solution. So let's get on those tracks and get this train rolling. Our objective today I will be able to solve a linear equation in x. So again, just a equation with one variable, x, to find the solution. So before we get started, we want to write down some steps for simplifying equations. These 5 steps we'll be using throughout the entire playlist, and as you guys get into your algebra and start solving for your variables. Step number 1 is to use the distributive property to simplify. Okay, so go ahead and write this down. We're actually not going to be using this step today. We're going to introduce that tomorrow, but we want to give you all 5 steps up front so you've heard them multiple times. Step number 2 is we want to combine like terms in the 2 expressions. Okay, so remember, terms are things that we're adding or subtracting together in our equation. That goes back to our first and second lesson. And so we're going to combine terms that are alike. Step number 3, we want to isolate the variables to one side. So we want to somehow get the variables on one side of our equation by using step number 4, using the inverse operation to simplify addition and subtraction by creating a value of 0. Now, that's very wordy. It's actually super easy. It'll make a lot of sense when we show you an example, but go ahead and write it down right now. And then to finish it up, step number 5, we want to use the inverse operation to simplify multiplication in division by creating a value of 1. So if you look right here, the difference between step number 4 is first we do our addition subtraction, and then we're simplifying our multiplication and division. Okay, so again, these are kind of wordy. It might not make sense. When you see an example, it's very, very simple. So let's go on and start with an example. So just like we always say, right, we know that this is a balanced equation. That's what we're assuming as of right now. And so just like we have that scale right here to show that, right, we know that 7x minus 4 plus x should be equal to 12. So there has to be a solution for this equation that are going to make these 2 expressions balanced or equal to each other. So last lesson we gave you the solution and you checked it. This lesson you're going to be solving for what the solution is, and then over here we're going to come over and check it to make sure. So our first step is we're going to use the distributive property to simplify. We don't have any parentheses, so we're done with that one. We can go ahead and cross that out. Step number 2, we want to combine like terms in my 2 expressions. So over here, all we have is a constant. We don't have anything to combine. Over here, though, we have 7x and a positive x right here, right? So these are like terms because they both have the same variable. So we want to combine those. So we're going to rewrite this as 8x. I don't have any constants other than negative 4 over here, so minus 4 equals 12. So now we've combined our like terms. We've started to simplify this. Now we want to get the variables on one side. So we're going to use our inverse operation of subtraction right here. And I know that the opposite of a negative 4 would be a positive 4. So I want to make a value of 0 to get rid of this. A lot of teachers will just teach you do the opposite, and then whatever you do on one side, you have to do to the other. And that's true, but we're really making a 0 right here. So we want to get rid of this 4 and put it on the other side. Now, because we know our scale is balanced, if you go back to your hands-on equations, whatever you do to one side, you need to do to the other side to make sure that you keep it balanced. So if I'm going to add a positive 4 here to make a 0 and cancel my negative 4 out, I need to do the same thing over here to make sure my equation stays balanced. So now these have crossed out because they made a 0, and I have 8x left on this side. 12 plus 4 is going to be 16, and now I have isolated my variable on one side, and I've gotten rid of my addition and subtraction by making and I did that by making a 0 with my constants. Now right here, I need to use my inverse operation of multiplication and division. So I know that 8x is really 8 groups of x, which is multiplication. So the inverse of that, I want to make a 1. So if I divide 8 divided by 8, that's going to be 1. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Now these cancel out because it's just 1 and I don't need to write 1x. That would be redundant. And so now I'm left with x over here. 16 divided by 8 is 2. And I think my solution for this equation is x equals 2. So I want to check it. So over here I'm going to rewrite my equation. 8x minus 4 plus x equals 12. And I'm going to substitute just like we did last lesson. 2 in for any time I see x. Okay, and I'm going to solve it. I know that if I do my order of operations, right, 14 first, minus 4 plus 2 equals 12. I know 14 minus 4 is 10, plus 2 equals 12, and 10 plus 2, 12 equals 12, and my solution was correct. Okay, so that's how we use our steps to get through and solve for my variable, which is x, and then we also want to check it. So let's go ahead and do what we do. So if you want to try this one by yourself, go ahead and pause it and then you can check your answer. If you're not there yet, that's okay, right? Growth mindset. And so let's just do it together. If you are doing it by yourself, pause it, push play, and check your work. So here we have, we don't have any distributive properties, so I'm going to go ahead and cross that out right there, okay? Then I want to combine like terms in my two expressions. So over here in this expression, again, okay, I had a 3x, but then I also had a negative x because I'm subtracting x. And so I know I need to combine those. And then over here I had 11x plus 9. I can't combine those terms because they're not alike. One's a constant and one is a coefficient and variable, right? And so I'm going to combine these two. 3x minus x would be 2x plus 2 equals 11x plus 9. So now I've combined my like terms. I'm starting to simplify. I want to get all the variables to one side by using my inverse operation of addition and subtraction, okay, to create zeros. So I have variables on both sides. It doesn't matter which side you take the variables to, but I know if I subtract 11 minus 2, I'm going to get a negative number. If I bring my 2x over here to this side to this expression, then it's still going to be positive. So I'm going to do that. It doesn't really matter though. So I'm going to make a 0 on this side by subtracting 2x. And whatever I do to this side, I also have to do to this side. Okay? And now these have canceled out. And I'm left with positive 2 equals 11x minus 2x is 9x plus 9. Okay? I'm not quite done simplifying though because I still have a constant over here and I want to isolate or get the variables by themselves. So now I have a positive 9. Okay, if I wanted to make a 0, I'd have to subtract 9 or do the inverse operation of addition. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side to make sure I keep my equation balanced. And so now these are crossed out because they made a 0. 2 minus 9 is going to be negative 7, right? And I have 9x. Now I've isolated my variable by doing my addition and subtraction and making zeros. Now I need to continue to unravel this mystery by simplifying using my inverse operations of multiplication and division. Here I have 9 times x, so if I divide that by 9, that's going to make a 1. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other to keep it balanced. And I think that my x is going to be negative 7/9. I think that is my solution to this equation. So now we need to go back and we need to actually check it. So I'm going to rewrite 3x plus 2 minus x equals 11x plus 9, right? And then I'm going to plug in negative 7/9 for every variable. So I have 3 groups of negative 7/9 plus 2 minus a negative 7/9, okay, is going to equal 11 times negative 7/9 plus 9. So now if I go ahead and solve it, I know that this would be negative 21/9 plus 2, and then my two negatives right here are going to make a positive, so plus another 7/9. And this is going to be negative 77/9 plus 9, okay? And so now I'm going to go ahead and add my two fractions before I do my whole numbers. That's okay, right? So I'm going to do negative 14/9 plus 2 equals, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a mixed number. That would be 8 and 5/9, but negative, plus 9. And again, if I turn this into a mixed number, that would be negative 1 and 5/9 plus 2. When I combine these, this is going to be positive 1 and 5/9 when I combine that side. And if I combine that side, that's also positive 1 and 5/9. So I can see that my solution was correct because my equation is balanced. Let's do one more, and I want to show you this one. If you're ready to go ahead and try it by following our steps, you should be able to do it by following the steps if you do it. If not, if you're not ready, that's okay. Go ahead and do it with me. If you're ready, push pause, solve it, and then push play, and we can check it. And if not, we can start right now. So here I have x minus 10 divided by 2 equals 4. Okay, so I don't have any distributive property. Go ahead and get rid of that. I don't have any terms that are alike to combine yet, okay? Um, but what I see right here, okay, and I can't isolate, all my variables are on one side, okay? I can't do any inverse subtraction or addition yet because this is x minus 2 divided by 2. So for this one, I'm actually going to go a little bit out of order. I want to get rid of my division by using my inverse operation of multiplication and division. And so I know this is a fraction, which is really division problem. So the inverse of division would be multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by 2. And again, because my equations is balanced, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. This is going to make a 1. And now I'm just left with x minus 10 equals 8. So that's how you get rid of a fraction if you're starting with 1. You think about it like division. And then you do the inverse operation of division, which is multiplication. So now I want to go back to step number 2. I don't have any like terms to combine. I do want to isolate the variables to one side. So I have a negative 10 here. To make a 0, I'm going to use my inverse operation of subtraction and add. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now these have made a 0, and I'm left with x equals 18. And that's my solution. But I want to go back and check it. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to rewrite the original equation, not anything that I simplified. And I'm going to plug in 18 for x. So 18 minus 10 divided by 2 equaled 4. I know that 18 minus 10 is 8. So 8 divided by 2 equals 4. And 4 equals 4. So my check was correct. Okay? And so that's a little bit, at first people think it's difficult when they look at it, but if you just follow the same steps and use your inverse operations, it actually becomes one of the easier questions you're going to have to do because as soon as you get rid of the fraction, you're good to go. Thank you so much for checking us out today. We really appreciate you joining us on our linear equation track to greatness, hopping on the InstructaBeats train. Please check us out on YouTube at InstructaBeats Official. You can follow us on Instagram at InstructaBeats. And as always, please subscribe and like the video. We appreciate you spending our time with us today. InstructaBeats out.